Hi people, Moino Wavenberg here again as always and as usual. Yeah, it's another birth chart on a historical figure. I'm going to cover Genghis Khan at the request of a commenter in I think my last video or the video before last on also other historical figures. So far I've done Alexander the Great, Spartacus, and now it's Genghis Khan's turn. Of course I'm doing this also primarily first and foremost because I want to. So just recommendations are welcome, but that doesn't automatically mean that I'm going to cover them, just so you know. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible in the wake of my prior video being 35 minutes, without skimming over anything, of course. Now, this is the constellation under which Genghis Khan was born. The ascendant was in Scorpio, 24 degrees. 24 degrees stands for conventionalism. It stands for the fact that Genghis Khan by default had a good deal of determination and thingy in him, and the determination and perseverance in him. Also, also being coercive and forceful. Um, First up is Pluto. Pluto is an Aquarius, 0 degrees in the third house. So Pluto is 0 degrees in Aquarius in the third house, which stands for the fact that Genghis Khan was simply someone that could elevate the people of his tribe, essentially. So people of his kind, to put it that way. So people in his tribe. Based on what you can see here, hold on. Genghis Khan was essentially born here. He was born in the Kinti Mountains in Mongolia, and he was essentially born. Hold on, because they don't know when he was born exactly. It just says that he was born between 1162 and August 27. August the 20. Oh, sorry, this is when he died. Sorry, he was born between 1155 and 1167, because it's still disputed, honestly, when he was born. Where is this? Hold on. Name and titles. Just goes on. Blah blah blah. Birth and early life. Yeah. His original name is Temujin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was born, according to historians, either 1155, 1162, or 1167. And it just goes on from there. I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, I've got his constellation right here. Now, yeah. In any case, Pluto was 0 degrees in Aquarius in the third house, which stands for the fact that he was a born leader, honestly. He had a lot of persuasive power in order to drive people to his cause. It's people that he came into contact with on a day-to-day basis. So essentially his tribesmen and his tribesmen. And it's also opposed to power of fortune, but in this case, the opposition stands for, it's both positive as well as negative. It stands for tremendous successes in elevating himself as well as the people of his tribe at tremendous levels, to the point where they become the regional superpower. But at the same time, it's also his undoing. So it's a going back and forth, it's the rise and fall equation, if you will. That's what that stands for. Saturn is 2 degrees in Pisces in the fourth house. Yeah, he was most likely born at 1162. That's all I want to note. Pluto, in any case, Saturn was in 2 degrees in Pisces in the fourth house, which stands for the fact that Genghis Khan was a strict disciplinarian at a domestic level. The children he had, if any, and his wife, you name it, the people that formed his household, he was pretty much cold and emotionless towards them. And domestic life for him was nothing but a formality, but in a constructive manner, not necessarily in a negative way. That's why Pluto again forms a grand trine with the South Node and with Mars, but Mars is afflicted. It stands for the fact that such an attitude, such a sour, emotionless, cold, heartless attitude, also has its benefits, regardless of how minor those benefits may seem. Neptune is 25 degrees in Pisces in the fifth house, and then we have another cluster. Neptune being here simply stands for the fact that, again, Genghis Khan had a well-developed level of intuition, and he used that in terms of discussing speculative affairs. And then we have the cluster. As usual, Mercury is further removed for the rest, and to the point where the Sun and Mercury are not in conjunction with each other. The Sun is conjunct Chiron and Jupiter, as well as Mercury being conjunct the same aforementioned, also Chiron and Jupiter. With Chiron is arguable because it's 10 degrees. It's almost too far away. In any case, the sun is here again in Aries, already strong, and in its house, the house that it rules over, because the zodiac sign that the sun rules over, Leo, is the fifth house, is the owner of the fifth house, or the ruler of the fifth house. So the sun is already strong, and it's literally in the strongest house it can possibly be in. This stands for the fact that Genghis Khan was an excellent warlord, and he was very well known in battle tactics, and his specialty was strategical planning. This degree even stands for changeability, 11 degrees in Aries. It stands for Genghis Khan being mobile, him being adaptive in terms of being able to switch up tactics and move things around and whatnot. You name it. Of course, the highly developed level of intuition also played a big role in that. Chiron simply stands for him being able to bestow that upon his generals and relay his battle tactics to him. I'm also familiar with this degree. 15 degrees in Aries stands for headstrong, stands for being stubborn, which means that when he taught his things to people, when he essentially relayed his information and passed on the knowledge and wisdom to his closest generals and confidants and those to whom it needed passing on to, how do I put this? Things didn't go smoothly due to them being headstrong. They were also like a vicious pack of wolves, if you will. And you can imagine what it's like to give commands to wolves, let alone have them specifically listen and actually carry out your orders. Yeah, Jupiter is in Aries, 19 degrees in Aries. This degree also, Jupiter is okay in Aries, depending on the context. Jupiter is neutral in Aries, and it's in the fifth house, so a lot of fire, a lot of heavy emphasis laid on fire, not to mention the conjunction with the sun. This specific degree stands for concentration and fixity or fixation. It stands for the fact that there was a tremendous amount of fixation on battle warfare related tactics. Yeah, Genghis Khan was an absolute master of warfare due to his hypothetically speaking supreme by the standards of his tribes, the tribes he ruled over and the people he ruled over. But from a neutral point of view, he was a tremendously skilled battle tactician. That's the phrase to keep in mind, battle tactician, brilliant battle tactician, BBT. Mercury is in Aries, conjunct the sixth house, almost, it's a perfect conjunction, separated only by degrees, 18 degrees to be precise, 39 minus 21 equals 18, yeah. Weak Mercury, obviously, it stands for the fact that he did things based on impulse. Things were purely based on doing things forcefully, not doing things based on logic and reason, and this also worked against him. That's why Mercury is square the part of fortune. It is trine midheaven, though, in Leo, but it's an afflicted trine. Mercury does not do well in fire signs in general, like I've already stated in several videos. Again, most warlords and legendary figures that were battle masters, so to speak, they were masters of warfare. You can see that they have a lot in common, but in different ways, in different facets. But generally speaking, all of them have the tendency to not be able to think things through and just rush in headlong or do things purely based on their bloodlust, essentially, and their lust for war, and not based on logic and reason and rationale. Yeah. So when I say that Genghis Khan was a brilliant tactician, he was a brilliant tactician based on speculation, based on literally taking an argument and analyzing it from every imaginable angle. It's not done out of intellect. It's done out of essentially analytical impulse. Let's just put it that way. Now, this Genghis Khan's mentality, his impulsive, aggressive mentality, also played a negative role in terms of him dealing with work-related affairs. By work, I specifically mean how his empire functions, how the Mongols functions. The Mongols were his tribe, obviously, and how they functioned overall in terms of sources of income and overall structural affiliations, if you will. Okay, a structural how-to in relation to how the Mongol Empire was run, and how things essentially went in terms of coordination. Mercury is strong on the one hand because it is conjunct the house that it rules over, but on the other hand, it On the other hand, it's afflicted for the aforementioned reasons. It's in Aries conjunct its house, which is also ruled by Aries, and it just goes on. He did things just based purely on essentially wantonness, like forcefulness, as in, hey, I want this done, get it done now. Not doing it based on logic and reason. Now, the North Node is 4 degrees in Taurus, going retrograde, standing for the fact that it stands for the fact that I'm sorry. Yeah, the North Node stands for the fact that, how do I put this? That Genghis Khan should have focused more on ruling his empire in a progressive manner and seeing to an improvement in overall functionability. And despite the fact that, which didn't happen, sorry, not despite, which did not happen. And the South Node says the exact opposite, obviously, that his focus on doing things forcefully and keeping things behind the scenes and essentially creating enemies and whatnot, that character trait of his is already more than well developed, up to excess levels even. That's why both are going retrograde, essentially countering each other twofold or multifold. Now Uranus and Venus, sorry, both in Taurus as usual, both conjunct the 7th house, which stands for the fact that both do not function well at all here, which stands for the fact that Genghis Khan did lay a heavy emphasis on financial prosperity and essentially making it so that the empire functioned properly by injecting a good deal of resources into its functionability. But of course, there were issues because that's also what Uranus indicates. That's why it's afflicted. It stands for the fact that due to him being of an overly critical nature, it stands for the fact that things were stagnant due to him being of an overly critical of an overly critical nature. He had the tendency to be so critical to the point where progress halted or was very slow in some areas and even stagnant depending on some situations. The conjunction stands for essentially the people closest to him, his generals and whatnot. He did give them plenty of resources. That's why it's conjunct the 7th house in Taurus. It's a strong conjunction because it's Venus's house. Venus rules the 7th house ruled by Libra. And that's it. Both Venus and Uranus are weak in the 6th house because they do not function well in Virgo or in Virgo, let alone Virgo's house, obviously. It stands for being excessively critical to the point where it's essentially almost like a minor form of self-sabotage by being overly finicky. But yeah, in any case, his generals were hypothetically speaking well-fed. We have Mars, 3 degrees in Cancer in the 8th house, which stands for the fact that Genghis was someone that was very aggressive and very forceful. He had strong desires, a strong drive to accomplish things, and he also had a strong sex drive and a need to reproduce children. But he was emotionally very tumultuous. Okay, he had a temper. Let's just put it that way. When it came to all of these things, Mars in Cancer by default stands for emotional frustration. In this specific case, it stands for him wanting to bear a lot of children. And Mars in the 8th house stands for all the aforementioned. Like I said, strong sex drive, strong emotions and desires, as in I want, now, yeah. Like that. The part of fortune is 22 degrees in Cancer in the 9th house, which stands for the fact that, and it's also conjunct the 9th house, also in Cancer, which stands for Genghis' strongest suit, which is a character trait that makes it so that he has accomplished in his life tremendous levels of success in terms of conquering foreign lands or lands that were foreign to him and his people. Remember what I said about Pluto in the beginning? That's why these two are conjunct or opposed to each other. It's both positive as well as negative. It's not just negative, it's also positive. It's the whole rise and fall equation, like I said. So yeah, that's what this stands for. The pot of fortune in Cancer simply stands for the need to domesticate what is foreign, essentially conquering. Okay, that's the best way to put it. to essentially claim land for yourself that wasn't yours to begin with, land that was alien to you. And the pot of fortune in the house of Sagittarius means just that, claiming land that is foreign to you. Okay, it stands for essentially being successful on foreign soil, tremendous levels of success. That's also what the conjunction states. Last but not least, we have both the black moon, so Lilith, as well as the regular moon, the plain moon, in Leo, both 9 and 12 degrees respectively. Both of them refer to the same thing. It essentially stands for the fact that he had a good ability to incorporate foreign lands into his empire through shrewd diplomacy and a bunch of other features. All things relating to diplomacy and being able to win people over to his way of thinking, even people that were outsiders, essentially. Again, so foreigners. That's why both moons are conjunct this cluster. The moon, the regular moon, is conjunct the sun all the way up to Jupiter. So the sun, Chiron, and Jupiter, very strong. And the moon is also conjunct midheaven, despite the fact that it's a difference of 10 degrees instead of the regular 8. The black moon simply stands for his hidden ability towards diplomacy, essentially using his own occult skill, if you will. Not literally occult, but using his own intuition and things that cannot be seen with the naked eye to win people over to his way of thinking. And the moon simply stands for the opposite. It stands for him just openly carrying out diplomacy and being kind and generous to people. Again, if you check the link in the description of this video, you'll see the usual Wikipedia article as well as a biography on Genghis Khan, and you'll see, as always, how accurate everything is. What I do remember from Genghis Khan, other than everything I already said, down to a T, is his ability for essentially, when he conquered a region, instead of sometimes killing the best warriors, he literally incorporated them into his empire in a friendly manner, as in you fought well, and these warriors thought they were going to die because they lost the battle, but they killed like maybe 100 Mongols. One warrior killing 100 Mongols is a tremendous feat. And when they were brought before the great Khan, Khan essentially was lenient towards them, and he told them, essentially, I do remember that when seeing a documentary about Genghis Khan, he can, you fought well. Instead of killing you, I'll reward you not only by sparing your life, but I'll give you the honor of serving in my army. Choose that or death. It's your choice. And you can also keep your village or your town, and I will make you the supreme ruler. Genghis Khan wasn't the only, he was anything but the only ruler in mankind's history that did that. But with him, it was definitely it was a noticeable feat. That's why Genghis Khan conquered a lot of people. The Kievan Rus, large parts of Russia, everything, just everything you can think of in his respective region. You name it, Genghis Khan, the Golden Horde, later on, it just goes on. I do remember all of those things about him. They got so far, almost to the point where they reached Europe, I think. I think Europe was lucky that it was spared from the rage, the wrath of the Mongols. The Genghis Khan, if I'm not mistaken, was also called the Scourge of God. It just goes on, and you can see why. Now, like I said, last but not least, the moon is conjunct midheaven, which stands for tremendous levels of success in terms of being ambitious and how should I put it? In terms of being ambitious and accomplishing one's objectives overall from an authoritarian position or perspective. So that's all, guys. Last but not least, I'm going to close off by saying that something noticeable, if you look at everything, especially this cluster here, in the 5th house, Genghis Khan wasn't really a focused ruler. He wasn't someone that ruled with a specific mindset, and the Leo influence here also speaks for that, or also supports that. Genghis essentially just conquered areas, honestly, just for the fun of it, for the sake of academia. He didn't have a specific battle plan in mind, as in, hey, I want to rule over these people and I want to do this, I want to do that. Nah, he literally he did it for the sake of literally just academic speculation, honestly. As in, we have the capability to do this, so we're going to do it. End of story. But there was no clear, like, long-term or permanent motive, like, hey, establishing a permanent foothold there, turning that land into ours permanently. or anything you can think of, economic prosperity or extracting as many resources as possible. Nothing that he permanently laid a stamp onto, and that's why when you look into the history of the Mongols, the empire he ruled over, and his tribe, the tribe he ruled over that he was the head of, you'll also see that their rise and fall was swift. As swiftly as they came, as swiftly did they disappear from the pages of history. Their empire, which rose to unprecedented levels, pretty much immediately shrunk. I'm going to show you guys, last but not least, Wikipedia section, Genghis Khan. This is what you can find linked in the description below, and I'm going to show you guys. There is a thingy. There is a GIF that pretty much sums up what the Mongols were like. Hold on. Where are you? Yeah, this is the... No, this is not the GIF. Where are you, GIF? Yeah, this is the GIF. Check this out. Look at that. Look at how fast they expanded. In literally decades, they expanded so ridiculously fast. Look at that. See? All up until 1259, and then everything collapsed. I think after that, you had several Ilkhanates, and then look at this. 1250, 79, boom. And then all of a sudden, everything collapsed, and it just completely fell apart in, like, by the time the year 1300 arrived. 1279, 1294, and boom, done. And that's what was pretty much the end of the Mongols. They literally disappeared as fast as they came, like a freaking storm, honestly. So that's all, guys. See you guys until next time. Bye bye.